shadow sides.
Recording in progress. This phone call is being recorded. The replay of this will be sent out Friday as well as the sponsorship meeting on Thursday. These calls with Zach are pretty open-ended, pretty easy to conversate with Zach. So if you have any questions, throw it in the chat or unmute your mic. I know Zach doesn't mind if you do that either. If you unmute your mic and ask a question, you can for sure answer him that way. All right, Zach, turn the time over to you.
That may be self-awareness.
Hey guys. Well, I'm glad you guys are all here. I'm going to get them out. So these underwriting calls, I think they've turned more into just kind of a Q&A. I want to hear what you guys, are struggling with, what questions you might have with underwriting. What are your major concerns, your questions, and let's just kind of work those out here. Because I do have those videos online on the path. 12 videos are recorded, so I feel like those help kind of answer a lot of questions. But let's just put your questions in the chat or open up and let's hear what those questions are. I think I already got one in the chat. What is the best way to submit our deals for Zach's underwriting assistant? That's a great question. So I'm actually working on a better system right now. It's just where you schedule a call with Jordan and myself, and you submit us your info, and then we kind of get on a Zoom call and review it. I'm actually setting up a process to make it a little bit easier, where you'll fill out a form you'll have your underwriting in there, you'll have your offering memorandum, your OM, the T12, and the rent roll, and then any other information about the property in terms of market research, renovate. Way, and then I'll shoot you to the link, and then you schedule a call with us. That's kind of going to be what the future kind of looks when submitting a deal for us underwriters, Jordan and myself, to review. And if you guys haven't met, Jordan's on here. Jordan, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself. This is, she's been doing a great job this past month of being on calls with a lot of you and reviewing your underwriting. And so, Jordan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. Hi, guys. I'm Jordan. Like Zach mentioned, I'm the junior underwriter, and I'm happy to, look over deals with you guys and kind of be that first step in the underwriting process. The best way, currently to do that is to schedule a call with me, like Zach said, send over that information to the coaching email. And then we can, I can look over that and we can talk over the underwriting for the deal and kind of any questions that you have with the deal or with the underwriting template. That's kind of our process right now. And then, after you and I have gone over the deal and, solidified those numbers, then at that point, we can see what next steps would be to, move forward on that if that's something that is a viable option.
Awesome. Thanks, Jordan. Nita, you're raising your hand. Do you want to, and I saw you put a question in, but do you want to just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask that question?
Sure, no problem, Zach. Thank you both so much. I am wondering about properties that have no purchase price listed, which we found fairly frequently. And the guesstimate that I'm putting in the underwriting template just makes everything obviously not work. And what's a good way to deal with the unpriced, where you don't have a whisper price from the realtor?
That's a great question. I guess my first, so what kind of guesstimate are you kind of doing? Are you just kind of throwing a number of whatever? Are you doing it based off any kind of formula? What are you currently doing?
It was kind of based on not comparable sales, but just trying to figure out per unit. If it was a large property, other properties in that region, if there was a per door, what might be reasonable. Now, there aren't a lot of properties in that area, so we didn't have a lot to work with. So we started going, well, what would be easier to raise? And so I think we're just way low, but I'm not sure. Okay, so how high do you jump to figure out what raise you would need to make any of these numbers work? And I just feel like we're shooting in the dark,
Yeah. Oh, that's great. You're doing a good idea by looking around at comparables. And that's what my suggestion would be is figure out what the market cap rate is. So that's going to happen by talking to brokers. So either talking to the broker that brought you the deal or talking to multiple brokers in that area and ask them, what's the cap rate with, this type of property that's a C property or a D property. What are properties going for right now on the cap rate side? And when you get that answer, you're going to be able to easily figure it out, right? You're just going to take the NOI and divide that by the cap rate, and then that'll give you kind of what your purchase price, your guidance should be. So there's is that way, or like you said, getting that whisper price from the broker. So having that conversation with the broker and just saying, hey, I want to look at this deal. It looks like it
I'm good,
fits my
thank you. We
criteria
are
so
not
far.
interested. Could you
So
please
I want to dive in
remove me
deeper.
from
What's
the
kind of the whisper
list?
price?
Calling list?
What is the seller looking for?
Thank you.
What's the
No
per
worries.
unit range? So
Thank
is
you.
it
Bye.
$50,000 to $60,000 a unit? What does that range look like? So there's a lot of different ways to approach it, but those two are kind of the ones that I've seen the most, I guess, successful with.
Great advice. Thank you.
You can use this, like you said, to your advantage.
Great question.
Right?
Hey, Patty.
Hey, Zach. Hey, Nina, thanks for asking that question. That's exactly what's happening to me. The other thing I'm finding is that when I asked for the T12, like I've gotten 3 deals in that have given me just this year's numbers. January, February, March, April, May, not even including June. And when I asked them for more detail, and at first I started, well, maybe I'll do the average. I'll do the average month. And that certainly didn't work because when I looked at their month, it was just all over the board. So if they don't give you that information, I don't want to give up. This particular one is just, it's in such a great path of progress. It's a phenomenal opportunity if the numbers work. But I don't know how to make the numbers work without them giving them to me.
For sure. No, that's a good question. I have seen that kind of happen with some other students on here. They've been getting some weird financials with T12s that aren't really T12s. I know one, and Jordan, I know you struggle with this one. It was a T2, and then they just projected it and did it to pro forma, and it was weird. They altered all the numbers, and so it was interesting financial they gave us. But in that instance, definitely, like you said at the beginning, definitely pry for more information. Like you say, I need the actual T12. I need to see how the last year has been performing to be able to, really analyze this deal. But if they're not going to give you that, obviously you have to just work with what they've given you. And so, if it is just 5 months or 6 months, if it's 5 months, just try to analyze it. So, 6 months is easier. You just times it by 2. You can still do that with the 5 months. So just analyze it and then do your underwriting based off of that. And at that point, if the deal does look pretty good and you do want to look at it again further, then you just go back to them and say, hey, this deal is looking good, but to verify my numbers, I need that T12. And so you just go back to that point. And you kind of give them that feedback of, yeah, it's looking good on my end so far, but I need to verify that. Could you please provide more? And so once they notice that you're actually putting effort into it, they'll go put effort and make sure they get you that.
Okay. Thanks, Zach.
But I had good question. I actually had someone ask me today, what happens if you get an off-market deal or if you're working directly with a seller, and he basically kept his financials on like a napkin, just pencil sketch. At that point, you might just want to run away because it's going to be a long process there. I know someone that did work with a seller and it took them 9 months to go through all their bank records and create a T12 from it. That's essentially what you'd have to do is work with the seller and create a T12, and create your own financials based off of the limited information they have. And that, that's a lot of work to it. The deal ended up working out for this person that did that. But, that was 9 months of working with the seller, gathering all the information before they even knew if it was actually a good deal. So it can be done. It's just there's a lot more work involved with that. Great question, though. Any other questions?
Hi, Zach.
Hey, Tanya. How's it going?
It's going. It's been a minute.
Yes.
The last time you helped me with the underwriting for that property in Charlotte, remember? Which I did not get. But the broker came back and said, that one fell through. I've got another great one. Let me know if you're interested. I moved 10 days ago to Atlanta. So now, so now I'm in Atlanta. So I contacted him back after the underwriting. I said, I'm looking at around 9.2. He said, I don't think that the owner is going to go below 9.7, maybe 10 million. My question is, do I still go and submit when he says that? He knows something I know, obviously, but should I still submit it for the 9.2 or say, okay, he said if the numbers work at 9.2, they're not going to work at 9.7.
Yeah, I think, I always start with just having those conversations with the broker like you did, and just talk it through and saying, he says, I don't think the seller is going to accept less than 9.7. And you're like, well, I can't do anything over 9.2. Are you sure there's no wiggle room? Like, what does the seller really want? Does he want the property to close? Because maybe you can offer more hard money up front and say, I can for sure close on the property if he gives me that 9.2. So it's figuring out what the seller's problem really is and trying to solve that. Is he just really need to get rid of it, or is he trying to get a certain return or equity? And so it's diving a little bit deeper, figuring out what does the seller really need here, especially if the deal fell through. the seller should be a little bit more, eager to get rid of it. And so approach it that way, maybe coming up with more earnest money and hard money, but keeping your price. So again, that's a conversation. You initially have that with the broker and figure out what would look good. And then when the broker's like, yeah, let's try it, then you submit it. If the broker's going to say no, the seller probably won't accept that. I wouldn't waste my time submitting an LOI if the broker already told me, no, it's not a good idea, right? Because there's probably already been people that have submitted LOI and the broker turned it away. So it's kind of giving almost like a green light or a good vibe from the broker that this could potentially work. So let's, with these kind of, terms, the seller might accept it. And so let's give it a try at that point. Does that help?
Yeah, I mean, it does. It was interesting too, Zach. I want your take on this. I think it was 2 buildings. One of the buildings, I guess, burned and had to be completely redone in 2000. I want to say 19. And he bought it for like $8 million, or it said at $8 million. I'm like, okay, so you're trying to turn around 2 years later and only make like $2 million. I don't know. It was kind of interesting. But I'm thinking, okay, that's a brand new building. The one because they showed pictures of these very nice units. And I'm thinking, okay, I didn't see any units that weren't nice. So I'm sure these were from the one that had been redone. But anyway, so I will go back to the broker and kind of try to get a better idea of what this guy's looking for.
Okay. Yeah. Good idea. And then reach back out with any updates so we can see how we can help. Yeah.
Good to talk to you again.
You as well, Tanya.
Hi, Zach, this is Janina. How are you? And I'm going to get back in touch with you also, but we only deal in the United States, right? Because I had someone contact me from the Dominican Republic with property.
The Dominican Republic?
Mm-hmm.
You have a property there?
Yeah.
Only if it's a vacation house that you can buy and then I can stay there. That'd be great. I'll take that.
This is land. She has land and resort.
Oh, land.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we can build ourselves, a getaway house, and then we can
right.
all have like a mastermind that's there.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't worked with anything, out of the States. I would say stay within the States because there's just a lot of other kind of regulations and unknown. You'd really have to dive in and understand those rules and regulations and the market there because it's a whole different animal doing anything for it. So
yeah, I know. Yeah, but I have someone who has dual citizenship over, there, and she's looking for land. So I was, just wondering. It's not that. Well, actually, this is outside of the multi-family because it's not, it's not in the millions. So.
Yeah, and then you have it's land as well, right? It's not, apartment complex, but if she's interested in land, go ahead and let her know about the land and
right.
Help her out.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
But I mainly want to know for in the future, like if something comes through, in over, another country, do we work with other countries or just we in the United States?
Would you like
I would say you'd want to be really efficient and good in the States first and successful in the States before you try to do anything in another country. So
right.
I mean, that was people that do anything in other countries are, for the most part, they're large organizations that have a long track record, and so they're more experienced that way. I would stay away from it unless later down the road that's something you'd be really interested in. But as in terms of starting out, I wouldn't touch that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. We got a question in the chat. What are the most commonly overlooked or underestimated items when underwriting? That's a great question. Jordan, do you have an answer to that? Or do you want me to take that on?
I have a few things, but I'm sure you could add some things as well. And hi, Kayla. Yes, I saw that was you. I think one of the biggest things that I have noticed recently is the kind of the market research side of things, looking into, properties around where that property currently is, and kind of seeing what, not only what rents are at those other properties to see, what you can increase those rents to, but also what things that they are including for their tenants, whether that be, media packages or renting the washers and dryers, looking into that and seeing what value you can add to the property to increase the cash flow, to help that annual rate of return as well as the cash on cash. I think that is a big thing that I have seen just, in the past couple of days on deals that I've been helping with underwriting. I think that is something that is overlooked sometimes.
Yeah, I know. I 100% agree with that one right there. I know Hunter on here, he'd appreciate this answer. I would say it's market research for sure. That one is, Hunter, I don't know if you want to talk about that, but what we see a lot of times is, people will bring us their underwritings, their deals, but they haven't done any actual research of the area, of the market, so there's just different levels of market research, and Hunter's actually going into. He did one coaching call. He's going to do another one in I think next week or the next couple of weeks of the next phase of market research, because there's a lot of levels when we talk about market research. Hunter, I'll just let you explain that part. That's your category there. If you want to explain the market research.
Just throwing me under the bus, I see. What was the question? Sorry.
The question was, we kind of went over what are the most commonly overlooked, underestimated items when underwriting, and Jordan and I both kind of brought up, market research is something that's kind of overlooked here.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, the reason why market research is so important for underwriting is because when talking to anyone, right, investors, sponsors, lenders, anybody like that, right, they're going to want to know where you got your numbers from, and how you justify things, right? So market research comes down to verifying expenses, right, for moving forward. But also, like Jordan had mentioned, is kind of looking at your competition to see really what that property could operate at, right? A lot of the times, we underwrite and we don't necessarily do anything in other income, all those things. And we're in a kind of a niche market where we look for value add properties, right? Properties that have not been bumping up the rents. So you can kind of assume that if a management company hasn't been upping their rents, they probably haven't been keeping up with what the competition is doing for other income, right? Pet fees, laundry, do they have paid parking, those types of things. So really being able to sit down, and this goes to when you're pitching your property to an investor or a sponsor, you say, hey, we've looked and every property around here has, paid parking, right? So we've implemented that. We've implemented these things, right? So it ultimately helps you with creating your business plan for the property. So it's one thing for the numbers to work. You have to justify the numbers, and you also have to justify your business plan for what you're going to carry out through the 3, 5, 7-year hold period. So just being able to verify those things, and let them know that you've done your research there, goes back to kind of even just building your credibility. So, yeah, unfortunately, every aspect of it kind of entails a little bit of market research, but I would say the biggest thing is verifying the expenses for your side of things, the pro forma expenses. If you can verify that, that's huge. So,
Thank you all very much.
I kind of wanted to add on to what Hunter said as well is, in the underwriting template, there is the, rule of thumbs in the hours category. And that's a great start, but it's so important to, like Hunter said, to verify those expenses and, reach out to property management companies and see, what you actually can run that property as, because it's going to be different in the different markets. It's not going to be, that rule of thumb is great, but that's not saying that that's exactly what it's going to be. You can run every property in that rule of thumb because it's going to be different for the different property sizes, as well as different markets. So it's so important to reach out to the property management companies in that market and kind of verify those numbers, because that will help your underwriting as well to be more accurate.
Definitely. It was a great question, Kayla. And with that too, to keep going off that is, for example, like verifying your expenses with like property management. You might be dealing with a property that's maybe like 40 units. So it's, a little bit on the smaller side. And if you're following the rules of thumb, you're putting in payroll, you're putting in management, you're putting all these expenses in. But in reality, if you call a property management company, their fee might be a little bit higher, like 6 to 8%, but then they won't have payroll. And so then you could be saving yourselves, thousands of dollars and actually analyzing the deal more correctly because you don't have payroll. You're not paying someone full time to be on site. You're just paying a management company. And so, that's just a small example of something that's kind of overlooked is doing that research. And that's part of market research. They go hand in hand. Market research, building your teams, underwriting. It's all one in the sense of connecting with the right people to understand your market better, to understand how to underwrite more effectively. Right? They all go together to be, the so your process is efficient, effective, and you're doing it, and then just so you get the right numbers, right? We don't want to be underwriting and wasting our time, and every deal doesn't work out, but it's because we didn't actually verify those numbers in the market, and the whole time you could be passing up on all these really good deals because the market research wasn't done beforehand, right? So that's that was a great question. I think hopefully that helps you guys in the future there. Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, we talked today, and I talked to Jordan, and thank you for today, Jordan. But so we've done our market research, we've got everything. At what point in underwriting, especially when using the rules of thumb to do the underwriting, do you say, okay, I have enough information to submit my LOI, or I have enough information because I just found out today that the deal I'm looking at, that their call for offers is on Thursday. And so I don't want to end up stuck in analysis paralysis where I just look up and the deal is gone. So at what point do you say, okay, I'm going to use these rules of thumb, I have enough information to move forward?
That's a great question. I think all the coaches, we talked about this a lot, and I could probably have Brady answer this, but the question that we'd ask is, do you have your team in place? So what if your LOI gets accepted? Do you have all the pieces in place to, with the potentially a property management company, lending already in place? Do you have, your team member, your internal team members of, who's going to be raising the money, who's going to be leading due diligence, who's going to be doing asset management? All those pieces are, if they're all in place, and your market enough to where you don't have to just verify every time with the property management company, because it's not where you're going to the property management company for every deal that you see and verifying the numbers. It's just doing it like one or two times just to get an idea of what that market is. So sometimes you just have to call the property management one time for that market and get a sense of what their rules of thumb are, and then you can go off those the rest of the time, right? So you don't have to be talking to them every deal. You have to verify every deal. Once you just get an idea of what it is, that's going to guide you in the right direction. And so once you have all those pieces, then I would say you're ready to submit the LOI, right?
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, we have all those pieces in place. We have the attorney, we have the property manager. They have actually reviewed this specific deal with my property manager. So he said it's a green light as long as we can raise the rents, which is great because that's our goal anyway. So it seems good. I just don't want to get stuck saying, I don't really have these numbers. So I guess the second question is, how much of that, the rules of thumb, when in the due diligence period do you start to make those actual numbers? Is that the first thing you want to do before you go look at the property, or you got to look at the property first? It's the due diligence period. It's kind of like, what information do I need before and what information do I need during?
Yeah, Brady, do you want to answer that one? Brady, are you here? Yeah, he might be busy, but
I can give a little bit on this one. Ryan, so I think the biggest thing, right, is, even when you go back to your first question on the number side of things, right, it's subjective and a judgment call on your end, right? The quicker you can verify stuff, the better. But you're right, throughout the due diligence period, you are going to be verifying stuff, right? Your capital improvements budget's going to change once you walk units and figure out realistically, what's it going to take to get these units up here. So it's a revolving thing in the sense that throughout the whole process, you're going to be continuing to kind of adjust numbers here and there as you figure things out, right? Insurance rates, might change in the 90 days that you're looking at a deal, those types of things. So as kind of things change, you just go back and make those adjustments and kind of just play with it as you go. In regards to when things will happen, it just kind of depends on your schedule and how you set up due diligence. As you go through those steps, those kind of will bring other things to light. If you get insurance done up front, it's great. Sometimes you won't get insurance done towards the end. So it kind of comes and goes, but you'll be constantly tweaking numbers, and I'm sure Zach can attest to this as you go through the process. You're going back and just adjusting and make sure that it keeps the numbers in the green.
How long is the typical diligence period?
Usually 60 to 90 days.
Okay.
Yeah, and with that, Brian, changing the numbers, like Hunter said, it just happens as more information comes in. And Tasha will probably be upset. She's probably upset with me at the deal that we're working on with MSCP. Because she's working on raising the money and she needed the numbers kind of set firm. And I'm like, well, me and Ryan were like, well, the numbers are changing. They're changing daily, and so I don't know how many times we change them. Probably change them about 20 times until we kind of just set them in place to present to our investors. So it's you're underwriting. You're going to do so many different versions of your underwriting. You're going to verify all the numbers. You're going to get new information. As you go through physical due diligence, then you're going to get new information with the lending as well. That changes some things too. So constantly things are changing. But no, that was a great question. We had a question here, and I think it was answered, but it was Alfonso, you asked about cash on cash, I believe. Oh no, Underwriting Pros. Yes, on cash on cash. So I don't know you guys' name. It's Underwriting Pros. But so cash on cash, the way I like to explain it is really just how strong your property is operating. The amount of cash flow it's bringing in. One, to cover your investors' preferred return, and then also providing the managers their 30% cut of the cash flow. So it's really how strong the property is operating is how I see it. So 9% is what we look for because that can give our investors a 7% preferred return. The other 2% kind of covers our 30% split there. So it's mainly just how strong the property is. Hopefully that helps answer that.
I have a question to follow Ryan's question.
Yes, Becca.
So we are currently working on a deal that we kind of caught before it came to market, and now it's at market, and their call to offers is August 3rd. I've spoken with the broker multiple times, and they don't have any plans to look at offers that come in before that. But how common is it that this deal could still be taken before that? Because we don't want, is there any benefit basically to submitting your LOI earlier, even though they have that set call to offers date?
That's a good question. Sometimes you still can, with the right price, the right terms, you could probably take it off their plate, but I feel like you'd have to be pretty aggressive. We tried that once. We tried it like a week before call to offers, and it just got the seller excited for the call to offers day. He submitted the LOI. He was like, yeah, that's decent, but that makes me more, I want to see what other offers are. I want the best offer. So unless you're coming in with, like someone did to us, $1 million hard day one and no due diligence period or something like crazy, most of the time they're probably going to wait till the call to offers because they want the best offer. So
okay,
hopefully that helps.
That helps. I just didn't want to be worried that it was going to be taken before that. But again, I've spoken with the broker multiple times and they've said the same, but just want to see how common it was.
Yeah, for sure. No, definitely common. I just kind of wait it out, and that gives you time to really make sure you have your team in place, that the deal looks good, it checks out, and you have everything ready so you can be a little bit, hopefully you can be aggressive on the offer and make it to best and final and move from there as well. So great question.
Thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions?
Yeah, hello, Zach.
Yes, Marcus.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
All good. I had two questions. So the first is, what is the difference between an annual rate of return, internal rate of return, and a preferred return? What's the difference between those three?
Oh, that's a great question. So the annual rate of return is you just take your total return and you divide it by the number of years you hold the property. That's kind of your average rate of return. Then your IRR, so your internal rate of return, takes into account the time value of money. So it takes into account that you're holding the property for 5 years. Your money's worth more now than it is in 5 years. So that's typically a lower percentage. So say we have a property and it's getting 100% total return. And we're holding for 5 years. Our average rate of return is 20%, and then our IRR is going to be more like 15%. So hopefully that answers that part. And then the preferred return, that is off of cash flow that we're giving to our investors. So, we get a certain amount of cash flow on a property. We're going to pay them, anywhere from 6 to 8% preferred return. So they're going to get, 6 to 7% return on their money that year in cash flow. So they invest $100,000, they'll get $7,000 over the year in distributions from cash flow.
So is the preferred return basically the cash on cash? Is that?
Yeah, they kind of go hand. They go hand in hand. It's not the same, but they go hand in hand to kind of. It's more of a surety to give your investors. I guess it is. It kind of goes hand in hand, but your cash on cash could be 9%, but your preferred return you're giving your investors is 7%. So I guess yes, they're getting like a 7% cash on cash, and then the other 2% is going to the managers. Does that make sense?
Okay. And the second question I had was, So I spoke with another investor, and I'm looking at, a lot of smaller properties, anywhere from 30 to 70 units, and they mentioned that typically for those smaller buildings where there won't be a property manager on site to do something in the local market, rather than somewhere that's 5-6 hour drive, just because may have to be more hands-on, sort of boots on the ground type thing. Is that something that you would recommend as well, or would you always recommend for smaller properties to have at least one team member boots on the ground, or do you think we could sort of manage it from a distance?
That's a great question. I'd say it depends. It depends on your team. I guess your property management team. I would, you definitely can invest far away. You don't have to have boots on the ground, but you'll want to make it a priority to go visit that property often, right? Especially during the takeover process, when you're doing renovations, you're visiting that constantly, whether it's every month, depending on the distance. If it's closer, where it's just a long drive, every couple of weeks. And then as things start to stabilize, it's kind of quarterly or every other month or so. So as long as someone's willing to travel there, then you technically could kind of invest anywhere.
Okay, great. All right,
great question. Yeah. Okay, so
I have a question. It's Christian.
Go ahead, Christian.
So I've kind of stumbled upon this deal on CBRE, the only one here in Jacksonville, which is kind of crazy, Florida. And it's three different properties, and I actually went to all three, posing as like the future tenant kind of thing. Two of the three are in decent areas. Like I did all the area vibes and all that research. Looked at market, growing job growth and all this different stuff for the area and whatever. The third building that concerns me is not located near the other two. It's like on the other side of town, and it's in an opportunity zone. So I kind of looked up what that meant. So it's like a lower income area. How does that, so like if I wanted to do those two main properties and they want to kind of force me to do the third one, how would that affect the deal? Like could I ask like to lower it? Like would I offer lower because it's not a great property? Because I even looked at the AR, like I looked at all the information, and like they have 11 pending evictions. So that kind of like gives me, and I talked to tenants and everything. So just walking
around. That's an interesting deal there. Yeah, I mean, I would try to do it. I think it would have to be kind of separate in a sense. Those two deals to that one deal. I'm going to approach them separately. The opportunity zone, those can be really great. They are required to be a 10-year hold, though, for investors to benefit from the tax, the tax benefits there. So, it's a different strategy going to an opportunity zone. So that's why I'd say you kind of have to be separate, unless other deals you'd run as that as well. But, I would see how they work on the underwriting side of how they look and how they look separately, each deal itself, each property itself, and see how they look. And if they, if they all pan out, if they all work, there's a way that we could, you can try to figure out how to make it work. But it's essentially just kind of two different deals there. There's one with the deals outside of the opportunity zone, and then the opportunity zone one, because they're kind of two different approaches there. You maybe could make it a way to approach them all the same way, the same kind of business plan, but it might be, my guess is it's going to be different, especially because you said it's on the other side of town, and it's an opportunity zone when the other ones aren't. They're probably different tenant bases and so forth. So, it's a tricky situation, but we can definitely, if the underwritings look good, let us know, and we can look further into it and see how we can make that work.
Thank you.
Of course. I need to do a shout out though to the Davenports on here. See you guys on here. At least Brad, I see you. They just got there. You want to share your news? I know it's probably already blasted on Facebook, but
I'm sure. Yeah, we finally we got an accepted LOI on a 144 unit property in the Houston area. Megan would be on here, but she's actually working on the property packet right now, so she's kind of focused on that. But I wanted to jump on here and see what kind of pearls of wisdom I could get from Zach and Jordan, and say hello to everybody, and just to say, the value that we get from the network and multifamily mindset, Tyler and Ryan and all these guys, it's a long haul. It's a lot of work, but I guarantee you, if I can do it, anybody can do it. So, you guys, let me encourage you, keep plugging. If there's anything that we can do to help out, then we're certainly willing, and just engage with the network and keep going because it does happen. So thanks, Zach. I appreciate the shout out.
Of course. That's awesome. Congrats on that. Hope all
Thank
goes
you,
well.
sir.
Keep us updated for sure, and let us
For
know how
sure.
we can help. Definitely.
I sure will.
No,
Thank you.
no, we all would love to help out. You guys get this deal done. Awesome. Well, do you guys have any other questions? And it can be, it doesn't have to be underwriting related. It can be any type of question. Again, we have Hunter on here, Jordan, Brady. I believe Andrew's on here. I don't see him on my screen, but any questions you guys have?
Zach. Don't you worry.
Oh, there you are. There you are. Yeah. So, any question, guys? Any questions you guys have for any of these coaches?
I do have. I'm sorry, this Christian again. I do have one more question. So I was like, I've been like watching all the underwriting videos, and I noticed on there you guys were talking about Nico, but because of the type of video it is, like we couldn't see the chat with his information for insurance rates. Can you give us that information so I can contact him?
Yeah, definitely. We could definitely provide that. Reach if Hunter. I don't know if you could pull that and put it in the chat. Nico's information. So I'll have Hunter put it in the chat, and then if you want to reach out as well, if you guys need to reach out for any of their contact info, reach out to coaching at the Multifamily Mindset, and we'll make sure to get that to you. But if you and Brady, he talks to Nico all the time as well. So Brady's working with him daily, almost. So good question though.
Hey guys, I've actually got a question which sort of piggybacks off Christian's scenario. So in that scenario where you have the two properties which would have to almost be underwritten and dealt with separately compared to the one in the opportunity zone, if everything in that scenario was purchased together as a portfolio, like how difficult is the process to maybe buy them as one and then basically execute different business plans on maybe the two and the one, and you maybe hold one for 10 years, and create a business plan for the other where you hold it for 5. Do you have to refinance them separately? Like how difficult would that process be?
So it's essentially separating out the loans. So you'd get different loans based off that. So you wouldn't buy it as a portfolio in the terms of the lending side. You'd probably get separate loans there. They probably have different terms as well for those properties. But you could definitely close as a portfolio, but your lending is going to be separate to allow you to do that. We've been working on a deal already like that where we started on one property and then the other property the seller's like, well, I also have this one. We're already under contract on one. So we kind of threw that into the mix, but they have different loans. One's a bridge loan, one's agency debt. And the closings we're trying to plan at the same time, but things kind of come in the way. So you're still going to have to kind of buy them separately, if that makes sense.
Got you. Okay.
And then Jordan put in Nico's information in the chat. So his email is in there for you, Christian, and anyone else that wants this. He's the insurance broker. So anyone that was wondering, he's the insurance broker that can kind of help give you guidance on what your insurance would look like. Things are kind of been changing a lot, especially with Texas. Brett he's done a lot of underwriting with those Texas deals, and insurance jumped up quite a bit to about 1,000. And I don't know if they've dropped at all, Brett. I don't know if you've talked to Nico.
No, I actually talked to Nico today, and $1,000 a door for underwriting in Texas and Oklahoma, by the way, is a good safe amount to put into the underwriting. Might come under that, but you never know.
Yeah, that's true. And before it was like $700, so it jumped up quite a bit just because of that freeze. So staying up to date with Nico on what certain areas are at is pretty important. Awesome. Any other questions for these awesome coaches on here? It's like I'm answering all the questions, but
Good question again. Sorry, guys.
No, keep them coming, Kayla.
So the property that we're looking at is technically in an X flood zone, but they have expressed to us that there is a LOMA in place for the area, which of course we've requested to verify, etc. But in terms of the LOMA being there, will we still need to obtain an additional flood insurance for the property?
That's a good question.
Will you ask that question again? Sorry.
Yeah, we're looking at a property that's technically listed like via map in an X flood zone, which is like less than 1% chance a year that it would flood. But they have a LOMA in place, which we've requested to verify. But does that exclude us from needing flood insurance, or what exactly does that do for us?
Yeah, so a LOMA is a letter of map adjustment that you essentially send to FEMA, and they would make an adjustment. So if they have a letter saying that you don't need that, it's been adjusted, then you should be fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead, Patrick.
Hey, do Nico work in all states or just
Yes.
in the? Yes.
Yep. So with insurance brokers, they work nationally, and you typically just kind of work with one insurance broker. You don't usually shop out insurance brokers because they all have access to kind of the same people.
Okay.
So if you want to work with Nico, you usually just stick with him. You don't really shop around because he's the one that shops around for you. We had actually some issues on a deal, that someone had for shopping around to other insurance brokers actually caused some issue with getting insurance for the property. So yeah, he can definitely do. He can do national.
Okay. Thank you.
Good question, though.
Hey, Zach,
Yes.
I have a quick question, please.
Go ahead, Doug.
I was given a portfolio of 2 properties. One was a C property in a C area. The other was a C property in a D area. And at first, I wasn't going to underwrite the D area property, but I did. And I found that the numbers are a little bit better than the C area C property. Is that common or is that unusual?
My question would be, is the underwriting, with underwriting the deal in the D area as a C property, what were your metrics in terms of like market rent? Is it in line with the D area or is it more in line with the C kind of area? So I'd be concerned with.
I'm sorry, go ahead. No, I was just going to say both properties are about $150 under the market rate.
Okay. In that property, so, with that though, is that under market rent just for the kind of like C properties, or is that under market rent? Because you kind of have to look, and this is another part of like market research that's be done, like property specific, is because that property's in a D area, you need to look at kind of the market rents in that area, right? It's more of that neighborhood, of that D neighborhood, of figuring out what are properties in that, right around that property, what are they charging, and then. And so it has to be separate from the C property that's in the C area. So the C area and the D area have to kind of have 2 different market rents that you're going towards. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be projecting C rents in the D market, right? It's just a little bit. You're not going to get that maybe, or you're just not going to get those good quality tenants that you're hoping to in the C area. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, it's clear. Thank you.
Of course. But it can, definitely that can be something that happens where the one in the D area actually looks better. It's understanding your tenant base that's going to be in that area. It's most likely will lead to more kind of high turnover, but it's just understanding that neighborhood and how it's going to, how you can handle those tenants.
Well, I just got back. I was late for the meeting. Sorry. Looking at a property sort of in my backyard, and it's a nice property, C area property. Delivery date was 2005. I think it's 37 units. Has 7 commercial properties under it, and all of those are rented out except for one, and that's going to be rented shortly. And it's just looking at the numbers so quickly when I looked at the numbers yesterday, and what I found out that the whisper price is, they're a little high. I'm just curious if I should continue on with that.
In terms of the whisper price being a little high, I always leave that open to it's negotiable. It's, having those conversations of what's really the problem there that you need to solve. Is it really the purchase price, or is it just the fact of needing to close on the property? You just want to sell it.
Well, it's just become available, and the owner is trying to move out of the area because he doesn't like the politics. And he also has another property that just recently went under contract, and he just wants to get out of Dodge. That's according to the broker.
Okay. Well, then there's definitely wiggle room there. If the price that's a little bit lower works with your numbers, and you can maybe go a little bit stronger on the earnest money and just kind of more guarantee that you're going to close, you can definitely, that purchase price can be more flexible for sure in that situation. Good question.
We got time for a couple more questions. Just a couple more minutes left. We have any last minute pressing questions? These have all been really good questions. I know my camera wasn't on, but I've been listening. These are awesome questions.
I have an underwriting question.
I'll let you take it away. You want to
people, like you have
Okay,
to, you
is
have
that
to
me
be
breaking
able
up or
to
is that
trust
the?
them.
I think it's you, Ryan. Unfortunately,
It is.
you're sounding a little bit. Now you're good. Go ahead and ask it now. Now you're good for sure.
Okay, yeah, I asked earlier today, but I want to make sure for future deals I'm good. And where you put in under your numbers on the underwriting template, where you put in the millage rate, the millage rate is usually like 30%. Sorry, I'm choking, but you put in point. In order to make it work, I put in 0.03, which is 30% would be 0.3, and I knew that was wrong because it gave me $200,000 worth of taxes. Is it always going to be? Is that how you always convert the percentage for the millage rate? Like by just moving the decimal point over 1? 2, moving it over 2.
Are you waiting for me, Zach?
Yeah, I'm waiting for you.
I was waiting to see how you were going to answer it based on your template. My answer to that would be it depends on your state, right? Because each state kind of addresses it a little bit differently. So is that mill rate applied to the outright value of the property, or sometimes they kind of manipulate the value and take like an assessed value, and so it is really 30% of the assessed value. It's not 30% of the.
Yes, Georgia takes an assessed value.
Okay, so they do. So yeah, in that case, then it would be moving the decimal, and I would just compare it to last year's. And if it's way off, then we may just need to look at it a little bit more constructively.
Okay.
But if it's somewhat similar or lines up, then it should be fine.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Because I could when I converted the just 38%. When I converted it into a decimal point, it would be 0.38, and that wasn't what the template needed 0.038 to work.
Okay. Well, yeah, I would just look at that, and if it's way off, then we can just kind of look at it and figure out what needs to be done.
Okay. Sorry, I'm choking.
Oh, you're good. Hopefully you don't. Yeah, don't stress on it.
Ryan or Zach, anything you wanted to add before we wrap up here?
Yeah, just to kind of go off with Ryan's question with the millage rate and what Hunter said, it changes a lot per state, and so it can get kind of confusing. And that's something I've kind of come across is it gets pretty confusing. And so, you try to see what that percentage looks like in the template. And, if your numbers are just drastically higher, it's just going off the historicals at that point, just digging deeper, look at what the historic taxes have been and the growth, at what growth they've been going at, and then just kind of base it off that. So hopefully that helps, that you don't necessarily have to have the millage rate if you know what the historicals have been, and you can just kind of get the trend there and understand what that trend is and then project that way. That could also help. That's all I got.
Awesome. Well, everybody, just one last reminder. This Thursday, the sponsorship roundtable. We're going to have a bunch of sponsors on there introduce themselves to y'all so y'all can introduce yourselves to them, potentially sponsors for these deals that you guys are getting ready to get under contract. So we thank you. We love you. Thank you for joining us today. If y'all need anything, as per usual, email us at support@themultifamilymindset.com. Or if you're looking to get with one of the coaches, email coaching@themultifamilymindset.com. Zach oversees that email. So as things come in there, he'll make sure to get them to the correct coaches. But same thing with support. If you email us in a support, the same thing's going to happen. So we appreciate y'all. If you guys have any questions or need anything, like I said, please email us. Please give us a call. Have a great rest of your night. We'll see y'all Thursday.